All right, welcome to GothCast, episode
50.
That's right. Took a while to get here. A lot of trials and tribulations, but it's very easy once I start recording it with you.
Oh, well, you're welcome, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Dr. Sanders.
And I'm just Bryan.
And yeah, this is 50 episodes of GothCast, which that's pretty crazy to me sometimes. It's kind of like how a lot of times I forget I've even talked about a band. Yeah, but I love doing this, so let's keep doing this some more today. And hey, Bryan.
Hey, Donnie.
Hey, Bryan.
Hey, Donnie.
Hey, Bryan.
Hey, Donnie.
This time, it is time. This is the time.
It's the time. Excuse me.
Can you hear the fireworks? Anyway, we're going to announce the winner of our contest, our dog contest.
Oh, great.
And so we had a lot of people enter, a lot more than I actually expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be mailing a doll off to you. So we have all the names listed up in a random name picker generator. And I will, hold on, you might hear the mic bump. I'm going mobile. Like I said in the video, I made the video version. I said iTunes doesn't include some reviews. Like even if the people write it out sometimes, there was definitely like one or two where I could see that they had posted it, like their iTunes thing, like they screenshot it for me, and I still couldn't see it. I'm telling you, iTunes is weird about that stuff.
Yeah, I wonder what they're doing.
I don't know. Still we got a lot of reviews, but I just think it's weird that there was somewhere it was just like, anyway, because I've had somebody say that before. I was like, oh, I wrote a review, but I didn't see it.
Weird.
I know.
Well, I mean, thanks for screenshotting it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be sending off the Annabelle Lee. Is that what it's called?
Annabelle? Yeah, the Annabelle Lee.
Annabelle Lee. Yeah. So we're going to send that off to you. We're going to pick the name. You ready, Bryan?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Dollface Gigi.
Do we know who that is?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's an active user of our community.
Yeah?
Definitely, yeah.
So that's a name familiar to you?
So we had the winner, Dollface Gigi. Yes. I'm familiar with the name Dollface Gigi. Actually an active member of our community.
Great. Hopefully they live in the United States.
Hopefully. I'm hoping. Because we did just include every international person anyway, because we're softies.
Yeah.
And
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. But that's great. So Dollface Gigi, we probably are going to get in contact with you as soon as this podcast is released, or get in contact with us if we haven't already, and we'll get that shipped off to you.
Congratulations.
And of course, we will be having other contests in the future, and we'll talk more about those as they come up. But don't worry, if you didn't win this round, you will have opportunities to win other contests and other things in the future.
What if we did another contest where we gave another doll away? Because, surprise, we have more than one.
We do have more than one, yeah. We do have more than one doll.
Yeah, so what if we gave another one away, but we included everybody who didn't win this time around, plus whoever else enters between now and then?
Yeah, we could think of some other entry thing, or I mean, seems good to me. So
if you didn't win this time, don't worry about it. You'll be included in the next one. Yeah,
and then we'll do like another round, and people who didn't get a chance to enter this time will have their own opportunity, and
if we get really, really big, where we have thousands to millions of reviews, we'll do a special one for just the people who were here in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll win something eventually.
You will. Anyway, we decided we'd announce that, and I guess we'll get back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Of the regular. Tune in to your regular broadcasts.
Programming.
Yeah.
Scheduled.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking about a really great band. I want to have a really good band, or a really important band, or a big band to be the 50th episode. And so I pulled out from the requests. Actually, since pretty much the beginning, people are requesting Clan of Xymox. And today we are finally covering this band and a whole bunch of really good albums.
Yeah, no, it was a great choice, because every one of these is a banger.
Solid. The thing about Clan of Xymox, actually, and I want to talk about, because it's definitely going to be a part 2, but a lot of the stuff that I'm familiar with the band, I mean, I've definitely heard all their albums, but the stuff I listen to the most are the later 90s albums and a lot of that kind of era of them. And that's mostly because it kind of switched to a little bit more alternative rock influence and stuff, and a little bit more of the more bombastic guitar sort of sound. but it seems like they were definitely influenced by the times, and we're gonna hear that in some of these albums too. Like you can kind of pinpoint some of the eras, the decades and stuff. So with these albums, I had a little bit fresher of a perspective on it, where sitting down and listening to each one, it was a little more fresh than, say, when we do part 2. I'm much more familiar with that group of albums. For this particular group, it's going to be the first 4, as always. It's going to be Clan of Xymox, Medusa, Twist of Shadows, and
Phoenix.
Yeah, that's one I always forget. But yeah, it's going to be great albums, and we're going to have the introduction of a term to our podcast. I'll probably mention it at some point, but it's a genre unto itself, or defined unto itself as dark wave. And dark wave, very popular spin-off sort of or subgenre, there we go, you can't see me doing the air quotes, of goth music. And I guess the way I break it down, the way I define it, is a more minor keyed romantic goth rock. That's the way I really like. If I hear something that sounds more acousticy, more lovey, more kind of rooted in the, what do you call it, traditional gothic rock elements that continued, from like the beginning to now, that's sort of how I would define it. I'm sure there's like some really specific way that people define it that people are just going, oh no, that's not how I would define it. That's just sort of what I think, a lot of the elements that jump out to me about that type of music.
That plus a lot of synth.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, that's a good way to think about it too. Well, yeah, and it's different than synth pop too.
Yeah.
I want to make that really clear. Although we are going to have some elements of that in here.
Yeah, towards the later albums.
Yeah, some of the bands that kind of call to mind some of the songs, but it's good.
I like dark wave.
Yeah, it's a wave of gothness. That's why it's so dark.
Yeah,
because it's like the sea, but the sea is black, and then it washes over us as a dark wave. That's how it got that term.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Yep.
There's no need to fact check that statement at all.
Anyway, Clan of Xymox was formed in 1981. As the years went on, we're not going to see it that too much on this episode, but as the band went on, they had some disagreements over some songwriting credits and who was writing what and everything. But the main people who you're going to want to know on this particular episode with these 4 albums is going to be Ronnie Moorings, Anke Volbert, I think that's how you say it. It's Wolbert, and Peter Newton, or Peter Newton. I'm going to say Peter. These are really the 3 musicians who make up a majority of this sound at the time. With Clan of Xymox, there's a lot of additional musicians added to kind of fill up the album sounds, but these are the 3 main people who you can think of for this. The band was formed in the Netherlands, for our Netherlandia friends.
What language do they speak in the Netherlands?
That's a good question.
If you know, put it in the comments.
I think it's Dutch. Yeah, I think it's Dutch. Yeah. But there is a release before the first album we're going to talk about, because we're going to talk about Clan of Xymox first, the self-titled album, and that was in 1985. There was like a mini album, and it was released under Xymox, and we're going to talk about that too, because this band changes the name constantly. And it's a mini album called Subsequent Pleasures. Good album, but it's just one where I felt like it wasn't the best place to start, and we see a little bit more of an evolution with the next 4. And it's still a good release. If everybody wants us to cover it, maybe we'll do it as a bonus on part 2 or something like that. But I thought I would mention it. I do know that Subsequent Pleasures exists.
Those are a lot of the same songs as the self-titled release,
exactly.
Though.
Yeah. So, but some people do consider it like, oh, well, but there's not the same versions, Brian.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And anyway, I just let you know that we're not covering Subsequent Pleasures in this particular episode. All that is to say, we're starting with Clan of Xymox, the self-titled debut released in 1985. What do you think of this album, Brian?
I think it's a really great album.
Me too.
I think all the songs are a little bit longer, and you don't really notice necessarily that they're long songs because they're very well done and put together. I guess because of the length of the songs, they qualify as epic rocking.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. And that's it actually is done really well. I think it's mostly due to the tempo of some of the songs. It feels like the song should be shorter in some ways, and then you're like, oh, the song's actually like 5.5 minutes long.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variety here too. Like, there's some melody-driven, slow motion-filled songs and tracks definitely driven by the beat on this album.
Yeah. And I will say that the sound of this album, it does have a very 80s sound. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You can pinpoint where this was, and it's smack dab in the middle of the 80s sound. And this band does not shy away from technology and adopting the sound of, new technology or being influenced. And I'm not saying that in like it's stated in a flock of seagulls kind of way. I'm just saying that with the instrumentation and especially the synth sounds, you can like kind of hear, I mean, at least I listen to a lot of 80s music. You can hear a lot of the same kinds of sounds that were on popular 80s albums.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like on Stranger, it's like practically the same drum beat, similar instrumentation to Blue Monday. Like,
oh, I knew. That's exactly. I wrote that down too. It's like very New Order-y.
Yeah.
And super. Also, I think also that song has a lot of Depeche Mode influence. Like,
oh yeah.
So I think they literally had the same kind of drum machine for like New Order and Blue Monday, and then they had the same kind of synths that Depeche Mode had.
They actually were all just sharing the same equipment.
Yeah.
They're just passing it around between bands at the time.
Honestly, I mean, that's if say a studio had something set up, I mean, that could honestly be the same kind of thing.
It definitely feels like it.
Yeah, that's so funny. That I wrote that down too, specifically for Stranger. I was like, this sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
But it is really good album, and it kind of sets up what we're gonna see for the next few releases. I will say that some of the mixing and some of the decisions in terms of like what affects the overall sound, it's kind of a muddy album in some parts, and that is mostly relating to vocals. I felt like some of the don't get me wrong, they're not bad vocals. In fact, I think maybe they're not everybody's taste. Like this, like Ronnie Mooring's singing, it's a little mumbly, I guess is the way I would put it.
Yeah. I think part of the reason I didn't notice that as much is just because the vocals were more like a melody for me. The lyrics themselves weren't as important as the music that they were.
Yeah. It's kind of just, I get it. Well, there's a lot of attempted layering in this.
Oh man, yeah.
And like I said, it's rough at this point. Like you can tell that they didn't really have the most studio time or anything like that. It wasn't like a multi-million-dollar release, but you're right about the vocals kind of not necessarily seeming like an afterthought, but it not being the most important thing, because a good example, the opening track, A Day, which is a very famous song, you may have seen the video, which is very funny.
Yeah.
If you actually listen to the album version, it takes about over 2 minutes, almost 2.5 minutes for vocals to even come in.
Yeah, very long instrumental intro.
I mean, so just with that, you kind of know that, like, okay, this band's more about the dance element, the kind of groove element, just more about the instrumentation at this point than it is about, writing the catchiest, chorus. And a lot of times the vocals kind of just, it's like they're in the song, but that's not the focus of the song at all.
Yeah. For A Day, actually, I like the mix on the vocals a lot.
You? Really?
Yeah.
It just has that, it is very distinct. It's,
I think we were listening on different audio equipment.
Really, we were?
Yeah, or maybe. Yeah.
I think to me, it's just like, it seems like so mumbly to me sometimes.
Huh.
It's not the worst I've ever heard. I guess just in terms of some of the other things we've listened to, like with Peter Murphy and stuff, which is so pronounced. True, yeah. And then you listen to something like this with reverb heavy vocals that are kind of like not the focus of the song. I guess to me it seems like, they're not as pronounced, but that's mostly just in terms of people who listen to a lot of other kind of mainstream music or something.
Wow. It's just it's interesting to not take that in a way where you're talking down to me.
What?
Here's why you're wrong.
Actually, I just say you specifically.
No, it's all good.
But yeah, I guess, but it's like the style, you know.
Yeah, no, I think they've, I think it just fit. I think the way that the vocals are done in that particular song fit very well with the music, but yeah, I mean, I get you. They're not in the foreground of the music there.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that actually this album was criticized at the time with, and I did notice it pretty strongly, was its influence from other bands of the time. This is something that I like you said with we already had the New Order thing for Stranger. Cry in the Wind. It sounds like if you got the Sisters of Mercy or like the Mission to come in and write a song with them. It just sounds so much like that kind of song. My mind really went to the Mission. I was just like, man, this just sounds like a song from the Mission, not just kinda. And for I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, Muscovy at Mosquito?
Yeah, Muscovy at Mosquito. That song, it just sounds like they took Bela Lugosi's Dead and kind of messed with it. Like the way the melody is on it, and it sounds so weird. But it reminds me if you cross like Clan of Xymox's regular sound with Bela Lugosi's Dead, and he threw like some Sisters of Mercy guitar and stuff in there for it. And that sounds really weird. People are going, what the heck? Just listen to the song, because it just reminded me so much of Bela Lugosi's Dead, like in the way everything was performed. But I definitely can see a lot of the influence from it's 85. This would typically be considered, like the second wave of like goth music is coming out at this time, like Sisters and a whole bunch of other stuff. But
yeah,
I can feel and hear a lot of the influence from the bands of the time, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, I think like Xymox does their own thing really well. I just wanted to mention it, that on this album especially, I heard it, and at the time a lot of critics said, oh, it is like a mixture of all these other bands. But I do think that they do step out. A majority of the songs, they do kind of have their own sort of thing going.
Yeah, they do have their own sound, even though you can hear things that are kind of reminiscent or maybe even borrowed.
What didn't you like about the album?
That's a good question. There wasn't a whole lot that I didn't like, although they use fake horn in No Words.
I knew it. I wrote that down. I was like, Brian, like the horn sounds really fake. Yeah.
I think that part of my issue with the fake horn, I was thinking about this as I was taking notes and everything, because it does appear, a couple more times.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of like old MIDI synth from video games where.
Oh yeah,
it's like trying to be cutesy, or like it's very like fake horn is kind of tropey and low budget to me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't have the same feeling with fake strings or any number of other instruments. Mostly like fake horns, fake trumpet, trombone, any brass, and then woodwind. Like if you got fake clarinet or fake saxophone, that bugs.
Saxophone's like pretty noticeable, but yeah, the horn, it is really noticeable in this one. It sounds really fake. I mean, really fake. They also do have the where they're using the vocal keyboard sampling.
Oh yeah, the vocal
Stumble and Fall.
Yeah.
Where it's like they go ooh ah ooh ooh, that sort of thing, which Peter Murphy did.
That was the one that I couldn't think of before.
Yeah, the ooh ah ooh ooh, like the sort of thing. It's not that noticeable, but the horns. As soon as I heard the horns, I was like, that sounds so bad. Like by today's standards of, because the strings won't take you out of it. Like synth strings, you kind of layer some other guitars and stuff on it. The horns just stick out no matter what you do. But also, you do have some elements, and I really like this for Stumble and Fall. You have like the loud, quiet, loud element of the verse, chorus, verse sort of thing.
Yeah,
where it kind of has the build up and gets like the really like bumping chorus, and then goes back down to a quiet verse. I like that a lot, and they did it really well.
I agree. That's all I get to. I don't get to add anything to that.
Yeah, just
because
that exists and it's true.
And it's true. And I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, no, I really like that song. And you know what? The fake horns and No Words actually didn't bother me as much for some reason.
That's
yeah, I don't know why that is.
Why it happened?
Well, in my notes, it just says, I'm not gritting my teeth as hard as I would normally for fake horns.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I don't know. You listen and be the judge of that.
Yeah. And then we have Seventh Time. I thought I would mention this specifically because we have Anka doing vocals for this. And we're going to see her coming in to do vocals for a number of songs on upcoming albums. She's a great singer. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Ronnie Moorings is a great singer. But whenever Anka takes over, it sticks out because it's different on the album, and she does a great job with it.
Oh yeah, yeah, really smooth, kind of haunting singing, sometimes sultry sounding.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know.
It's very like there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of emotion put into it.
Yeah,
and it's just great. I don't know how else to describe it, but also the one thing you do have, as a contribution from Anka is the great bass lines. Like a lot across this whole album, there's a lot of really good bass and a lot of good things. And maybe it's not even the most intricate kind of bass, but it just works for the song. That's like Seventh Time doesn't have a very intricate arrangement, but it's a great solid song. Also, one of the only other things I want to mention here really quickly, I say Clan of Xymox really likes intros for songs.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
there always is like it'll start with like one guitar part or just like a bass line or like a synth part, and then it'll lead into the song almost every single time on every single album.
Yep.
But on this album in particular, you do have a few songs where it seems like they had a good synth part and they do it in the beginning, and then the rest of the song has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they just go in a completely different direction with
it.
it.
No Words is like a perfect example, or even A Day a little bit, where it's just like by the time it gets into the vocals and stuff, this didn't really have anything to. It's like two different parts completely. It's not like it really led into one another. It's like there was a part that was an intro, and then you start a song.
I suspect that it's because they had these instrumental pieces that weren't really long enough to stand on their own, or so they thought, and maybe they just kind of turned those into intros for other songs they knew they could kind of
pad it out.
Yeah, use it as a lead-in.
Yeah, well.
But regardless, I like it and it works.
Yeah, it does. Well, they're all good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is going to be another set of albums, actually, where, I would recommend listening to the entirety of the album.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. In a row. Listen to it in all four.
Whoa.
Just spend the whole day. No. I mean,
don't do that.
Don't. You'll
be too Xymoxed out.
Yeah. They'll come and take you away.
They'll scan your brain with a Xerox. Then you'll be a brain of Xerox. Happens every day.
Every day.
Well, anyway, do you have anything else to add about the first album?
No. I mean, not really. No, just I really like all the songs individually. I think they all work well one after another. I think they're arranged very well on the album. I think No Human Can Drown is a good closer.
Yeah,
it's really good as an introductory album to Clan of Xymox for the time, and definitely worth a listen.
I agree.
So one thing I will mention is that in the original release, it didn't include the last 3 tracks that are on there now. So Muscoviate, Mosquito, Stranger, the remix, and A Day, the remix, are all added for the re-release. As it turns out, Muscoviate Mosquito was originally called Muscovite Mosquito, but they changed it, I think, because it was confusing to people as far as what they were intending to communicate. So there's that.
Welcome to Random Interesting Goth Stuff,
aka Riggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not gonna see that. So, we have a few interesting things. They're random. They're goth things.
They're interesting.
So, one thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about each of these briefly, because I have mentioned, I think, each of these, almost all of these, separately in other episodes, but they take so long to get made that they keep showing up in the recent Interesting Goth Stuff. There's an update on the Sandman series. I'm pretty sure that I first talked about this in like 2015 with Robbie Gore, where Sandman was being adapted into a TV series because they were trying to make a movie, I think with Joseph Gordon-Levitt or something, or like a TV series or mini series or something with him. This was years ago.
That just seems like a weird casting to me.
And, well, at the time, you gotta remember, in like 2015, he was big.
I guess. Yeah.
And so it was like that made sense for the time. But there's been another update. So there is going to be an adaptation of it made by Netflix. And this is the first time where I'm like, this is probably going to get made now. Because Netflix actually ends up making everything that gets stuck in development hell.
Yeah.
Like they did with Motley Crue's The Dirt. It's probably a good movie. And a whole bunch of other series. Like they just get stuck in development hell. Or even like what they do with like Arrested Development, where that show is canceled. They pick it up, just continue production.
Right.
And I think it's really smart whenever they do that. But they have a knack for just being like, it's going to get made. Like, just make it. Like,
just figure it out and
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is debuting here. Release it. Like, and they have a really just great way of doing it. I think that they are successful in it because they make sure it actually happens. I mean, they have had a lot of failures with some of their original content and different things like that. But the fact that it actually gets made a lot of time is just a miracle in that anyway, since so much stuff doesn't get made anyway. That sounds really cool. But yeah, anyway, update on the Sandman TV series. It was sold to Netflix. Of course, if you're not familiar with Sandman, it's an amazing Vertigo comic by Neil Gaiman. So good. As I've said before, I've been trying to work on a video for Sandman for a long time. I think I'm going to take it book by book, like volume by volume, because it's just such a hard thing to talk about. There's so much that happens in that story. The characters are by the time you get into like so many issues into it, it gets really convoluted. It's hard to explain to somebody, like if you're coming in even like on like volume 2 or something.
Yeah.
Or like all the other spin-offs and all the things throughout the years and Dream Hunters, and there's a lot to it. Amazing comic. I mean, just so great. It takes forever to read because of the way that it's written, but it's really good. But yeah, so after I guess New Line had failed to actually produce a actual series for it, but apparently they're going to make an 11 episode like series for it. I think is the intro to it. And if that's going good, then they'll do another one. I know that they were trying to make a movie for it. Didn't happen, like I said. But yeah, apparently they're trying to do the same thing with Neil Gaiman and like the original story writers to try and actually adapt it properly. I think that's really great. I mean, I'd love to see all the Endless represented, and like it was crazy. I mean, like people argue all the time, like could it be adapted? Kind of like when Watchmen.
Yeah.
Like was it like coming out there like, can you adapt Watchmen? It's like because it's meant to be a book. And Sandman is kind of that way in that a lot of the elements, like with the art, especially like, he travels to like hell and stuff. A lot of that, I mean, you would just have to CG the heck out of it.
It'd be really hard to capture that properly. Like
the desolate kind of demons roaming around. Like it would be really hard to actually get the mood of the book. I totally understand that. I mean, and especially with how involved the story is. I mean, you could do some just basic story arcs and it could be like almost an entire series. Or like there's so much stuff that's set up in the beginning of the story that they reference later. There's like a whole thing with one of Dream's lovers, and it's like really early on where they show her, and then it's a lot later actually in the story, like I mean way later, to where they actually address that.
Yeah.
But it's like they had it planned. So there's some things where it's like, okay, if they're doing a show, do they include those elements? Because what if it never gets made? Sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think though that it's better to include. I think
just include it.
Yeah, just include it or whatever in case. But I think it's better regardless, because when you've got something that's episodic like that, you can you have time to address all these other things, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to rush through everything necessarily. Like when you look at, for example, like Death Note, they converted the manga to a TV series, and then Netflix did that movie for Death Note.
Oh yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah,
but there's so much that got left out. I mean, even in the TV series or whatever, it wasn't entirely.
There was a TV series, like the anime series.
Anime, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was like a live action series.
No. Yeah. So just going from episode to a movie, there was so much stuff they had to remove and cut out, right? And they have the opportunity to do that in a television show. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, it's funny, my parents, I mean, I don't even think my dad can watch anime, period.
Yeah.
I don't think he's capable of seeing anything in a cartoon. But it's funny because my parents watched that Death Note movie, and they were like, that's pretty good.
Huh.
I was like, that's so weird. I was like, you guys know it's like an anime, right? And they're like, oh, really? I was like, oh, Willem Dafoe was amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Yeah, I think they could do it. Like I said, if anybody could do it, it's going to be Netflix.
Yeah.
Anybody. I mean, just whenever they pick stuff up, I'm like, that's getting made. I mean, because they've had so many projects, like especially being such a film nerd, there's so many movies that they just finish. I'm like, that was stuck in development hell for like 13 years, and they pick it up and it's made in like a year, and it's usually it's at least okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited. We also have another update for the Vampire Chronicles. It's actually set to be filmed. I don't know if I talked about this before. I don't think I did, but it's actually has a filming date set for September. Now, this is something where I'm a little less
excited.
Well, I'm more hesitant because
okay.
It's not being done by Netflix. It's picked up by Hulu when Anne Rice got the rights back to the series.
Yeah.
For like to adapt it, to do adaptations. There we go. Because of course there was a whole controversy with Queen of the Damned not being anything that she wanted. It was pretty much just made the studio kind of rushed it out because they were like, oh, if we don't release it, then we're going to lose the rights.
Right.
And because all the rest of the projects get stuck in development hell, she got the rights back and was like, okay, shopped around, and then Hulu picked it up. It was like, okay, we're going to do a series for the Vampire Chronicles, which I'm just like, heck yeah. But it finally has a filming date for September. Like I said, Hulu, I always feel like Amazon Prime and Netflix are the ones where it's like it 100% gets done like within a timely manner.
Yeah.
I do feel like Hulu is similar, but I really feel like whenever I see either the Amazon Prime thing or the Netflix thing come up, I'm like, that's getting made. Like 100%, that's going to be on time. Like they're going to put that trailer out, and that's going to be like the date. And that's just mostly because their track record is so good with that kind of stuff. They rarely have stuff that just is like they announce it and then it just doesn't come out.
Yeah, pushed or never hear about it again.
Yeah, there was like, I think there's only been a few things that were like that, but I would say the majority of things came out. And then just as a little inclusion here of this, I also want to say that there's supposedly going to be a Hellraiser TV series as well. So I thought I would group all these together. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's cool, I guess. I mean, depends on how much you like Hellraiser. I don't know. I was trying to find out what network's picking that up. I think it's actually going to be like a television one, but I don't know who picked that one up. But there's supposedly going to be a Hellraiser TV series. And I do also want to say with that, I actually didn't ever see, like, I only ever watched Hellraiser 1 up until like a year ago. I never saw Hellraiser 2. And I saw Hellraiser 2 and I was like, wow, this movie's way better than the first one. Right. Why was I always watching number 1?
I'll actually give number 2 a shot now.
I'd only ever watched 1, and then I thought 2 was like, I was like, this is really stupid. And it starts off kind of slow, in my opinion. I was like, well, I'll give it a shot since it has good, like, everybody keeps talking about it. And then I was like, it totally redeems itself, and I was like, wow, this is actually, like, I think I actually might like it better than the first one. By the way, I don't know how, that's why I was just trying to look for the network to see who will pick up a Hellraiser series. Not a lot of networks will pick up that kind of content.
Yeah.
Some BDSM monsters from a different dimension that sex torture you to death.
I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm trying to think of a good joke one, you know.
Probably like Disney on Demand.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got some subversive.
Yep.
And Donald Duck doesn't wear pants.
That's right.
I mean, so.
That's right.
There you go.
In front of his underage nephews.
That's so wrong.
Well, just saying.
Well, yeah, that's right. Why? Yeah, I was wondering why doesn't Donald Duck wear pants, but Mickey Mouse wears pants
and no shirt,
but none of the ducks wear pants. Yeah, no shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Springing up a lot of questions. I need to stop thinking about this. Anyway, what else have we got, Brian?
We know it's getting warmer out, right?
Yeah.
And that means that people are dressing a little cooler, maybe not wearing as many layers.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Goth Crocs.
We're not talking about Goth Crocs this week either.
All right, that takes care of that. Well, if you're familiar with Edward Gorey, the artist.
Yes.
Somebody found a bunch of early drawings by Edward Gorey, apparently just hanging out in somebody's box full of drawings.
There you go.
Apparently there's like a family friend of Gorey had a lot of early drawings just stored away somewhere.
Yeah.
And this art dealer came over and he was interested in some other artwork that person had and just kind of was like, oh, what are these? And there they are. It's like, what, 26, I think? Quite a few. Yeah, 26 Edward Gorey illustrations just randomly appeared. So that's kind of cool. Some early work by Gorey has been rediscovered.
Yeah.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is being released.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. So, yeah, you brought this up, and I thought it was a pretty good thing. I mean, we don't necessarily talk about video games all that much on the show, but I thought this was a kind of cool one because it's basically, if you've ever heard of the video game series Castlevania, which is just... If you
haven't, that's really shocking.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not the... Well, I guess if...
It's pretty iconic.
I would say, yeah, I guess. I just don't expect everybody to hear from it because it's not like Call of Duty or something.
Sure.
Ooh. But yeah, it's a video game series that's famous for like being basically horror movies.
Probably one of the inspirations for Devil May Cry.
Oh, probably, yeah. Well, different companies, but yeah.
Well, yeah,
definitely.
no, but I just mean like as far as the
aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Castlevania is like, you fight Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy. I mean, you fight like all the classic Universal monster movies, and it's been going forever, and there have been so many different games in the series, and there's all this lore to it. But what you basically need to know is that like you kill vampires and horror stuff, and it's all like creepy mansions and crap. And basically the series itself is kind of not going anymore because of some company decisions. And so the creator was like, well, I'll just go make Castlevania and call it something else. And he did a Kickstarter, and it actually was successful, and you can actually buy the game now. And it's pretty cool. It's getting really good reviews, and I actually watched a review of it, and yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, the art style, it's very like anime influenced, but it just depends on, what you kind of like to see. I've seen some good reviews of it.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Take a look. Check it out.
Bloodstained. Well, that was some random interesting guest stuff. I think it was a longer segment this time. Got a whole bunch of new TV shows, some video game, the goodness, some Edward Gorey, getting gory up in here. It's all good. It's all random.
Yeah.
It's all interesting. It's mostly goth stuff.
Yep.
Okay, back to music.
Now we're on to 1986 release called Medusa.
Could have said it better myself.
Now we're on that one.
We're on that one.
Now,
Medusa.
Now that I've turned the page over.
Turn the page. That's a song.
Yeah. But it's not on this album.
It's not on this album.
No.
As many people know, Medusa, snake, hair, turns people to stone, often called the Gorgon.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Medusa from 1986, and second release by Clan of Xymox, and great album. I think they tightened up a lot of the production issues. I kind of were more noticeable today. Seemed like there was a little bit more of a budget.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A little bit better songwriting. It's similar to the last album. I'm not going to say, every single thing. I would say it's pretty similar. Some strange decisions, I think, a little bit, but it was a pretty cool album. I mean, I still like it. I still really like the album.
Yeah. This is their Lost Loves tribute album, right? All, bunch of songs about lost love, relationships,
little
feelings.
sappy lyrics, a little bit.
It's definitely moody, brooding music.
Yeah, and this album, it's really cool, but I will say that we see some instrumentals on this album, and I don't know that this necessarily adds to the album in a dramatic way. And maybe it's just that for synths, I'm just not as interested in just instrumental pieces, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to describe that. I don't want to seem snooty here, but I thought I would mention that, like, that for, because you do have theme 1, theme 2, and I think there's another one that's just only instrumental.
Loratane?
Yeah, Loratane, yeah. And I do like these songs, but I want to point out that I like the other stuff better.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe
it. No,
that.
I get you. I think that they do add, so I will take a counter position to that. I think that they're really well done. They're interesting. I think that theme 1 leads very well into Medusa, which is the second song on the track.
Yeah.
With theme 1 being the first song on the track.
By the way, Medusa.
Yeah.
That's a really good song. Great dancey kind of element to it, kind of the upbeat like kind of thing to it. I mean, it's not necessarily like upbeat in a normal dance way, but the rhythm,
faster
makes you want to move.
Yeah.
And you still do have like the reverby vocals, like a little bit more echoey. And I feel like on this album, they're still treated a lot like a melody to it instead of an actual, hey, sing along sort of thing.
Yep.
Which still is good.
It's also got that classic glorification or romanticization of torment, which we all like.
Yeah, there's a lot of you have Michelle, Luis, you have Agonized by Love. I mean, just I won't say that I hate the kind of overtly cheesy sort of thing. I will say that it's a little bit noticeable at some points that the vocals and the lyrical content is sappy. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it works. I think with Luis, which is one of their most popular songs that they've ever had, I think, well, I don't know, I guess in today's sort of scope, that's a really popular song by the band.
Yeah.
It's a really, really great song. I'll say it does remind me a lot of a New Order song. It just sounds the kind of way.
Long, sustained holds on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. And at 4 minutes and 10 seconds, it sounds like there's a hard cut.
Yeah. Okay. There was some of that on last album.
Yeah.
Here, there's some. I don't know if they were just rushed on the mixing a little bit. Keep in mind, this is 1 year later. So 1 year.
Yeah.
So obviously, this album was turned over in a very short amount of time, and that might also be why it has just some pure instrumental tracks, because it's obviously a little bit hard to work out some of that kind of stuff. It's still really cool, and you do see a little bit of the elements that creep in with the next two albums, with a little bit more of the accessibility of the songs, kind of, I don't know if catering to popular music or is the right word, but having elements of a little bit more of the love, a little bit more of the romanticism overtly in here, or some of the more dancey elements being upbeat a little bit more than the kind of all minor sort of elements of the last album. Think this makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying not to sound harsh. I mean, because it's a good album, but I feel like I'm criticizing it really harshly.
I think just I think they did well with the pacing between for their track selection. I guess that's one of the reasons too why I like the instrumentals. I think theme one, again, good intro track. As far as an instrumental is concerned, you could take that and kind of consider it a long instrumental intro to another song. I mean, very long intro, but I think
on the last album it would have been one song.
Yeah,
like Medusa just would have been theme one and Medusa.
Theme two, that is Dark Crystal bumper music. So if you're watching Dark Crystal on network television and they need to put in some sort of like bumper music between the ad or whatever, or you're watching the Dark Crystal or whatever, this is the music they're going to use in the background.
You know what's so funny is you put that, that's what you say, and then on Laurentine, I put reminds me of the background music in the Labyrinth.
Oh yeah, see, so for me, that's like 80s dystopian future.
Oh yeah,
background music. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my favorite instrumental on here is Laurentine. I thought it was great. Like I love it, but it's so funny you said Dark Crystal and I wrote Labyrinth for that one.
Yep,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it does sound like it could be used in some sort of high production environment.
It does, yeah. I mean, like I said, I really felt like the budget for this one cleaned up a little bit. I mean, kind of gels a little bit more. And aside from some of the lyrical choices, I think this is a really strong album. It just overall. And when I say the vocals, I'm talking that's a real nitpicky thing for this, because this is a good album.
Yeah.
It's kind of like whenever something's really good, you have to find something to kind of nitpick a little bit about it. So, I mean, obviously I recommend this album anyway. I think it's really good. You do have a lot of the signature Clan of Xymox guitar sort of thing. I don't know why, or like, wah, 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 wah.
Exactly like that.
It's like kind of a screeching guitar, but it has a very distinct sound.
Yeah.
Like Ronnie's guitar is it has a very unique thing. Like when I hear it, I'm like, okay, that's like Clan of Xymox,
Yeah.
with the keyboards and that guitar.
Well, like A Day, last album, right? That guitar sound.
Yeah, it's the introduction to it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna hear that across all the albums.
Yeah.
That's just the signature thing. But Agonized by Love, I did really like the guitar. I liked it a lot.
Oh yeah, me too.
I felt like the song was maybe a little busy. Maybe it was just the mixing of it. I felt like there was almost a little too much going on at some points. But that song I really liked. Agonized by Love. Great song. Backdoor.
Yeah.
Another great one. Great bass. Has that signature guitar sound. Like, it's so funny because whenever you listen to these, especially back to back, like, you know, or like for this kind of episode, you pick up on things like that where it's like, oh, okay, here's the way the bass is kind of played, and here's the way the guitar is kind of played on these albums, and they're really consistent.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Peter Murphy or a different situation. Like, these are mainly the same composers. And so across it, you just kind of see them refining the elements between these 4 albums. And yeah, you have a lot of the same kind of instrument choices, it seems like.
Yeah.
But they do kind of bump up the synths a little more and kind of make them a little bit better as time goes on.
Yeah, they absolutely do some additional experimentation with the next couple albums as far as the sounds they use. Whereas here, this one and the last one, they're still working mostly with the same kind of stuff. When you were speaking earlier about the lyrics, the strength of the lyrics, what came to mind for me was Michelle.
Yeah.
I really like that song. I like the faster tempo. I like that it's driven by the rhythm section, and it's a really strong rhythm section.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that hides the fact that the lyrics on that are kind of weak.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I really do feel like the instrumentation drives this band a lot. Well, it drives a lot of what I like about the band.
Yeah.
A perfect example is kind of like, and keep in mind, we haven't done an episode on the band Human Drama, but like with Human Drama, like the lyrics drive so much of that band. Like the way the singer interacts with it, it's really a driving force. I don't feel like that's Clan of Xymox's thing. I mean, we're going to see, you know, on part 2, we'll see a little bit more of that. But for these particular albums, it feels like the strong points of the band at this point are the really good use of synths, the great use of distinctive guitar, a good bass, and knowing how to program really good 80s drums.
Right.
It's okay if the lyrics aren't necessarily to, you know, the degree that maybe, say, another band might have it. But
the instrumentation is done so well. I want to say instrumentation. No, not instrumentation. Arrangement. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I think they did really, really well with the arrangement, the instrument arrangements, and so the lyrics don't have to be as strong.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, overall, I really liked it. I know we're nitpicking here, but this is another one.
Yeah, I think it's still a really good one. Oh, by the way, I know, did you were trying to listen to these on Spotify? This album was on Spotify, right?
This one was, yes, but the next 2 were not.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about that in the next thing. But yeah, so if you want to listen to the first 2, it's a lot easier to find those, I guess. And we're going to talk about some of the controversies with the next release. But Medusa, again, lady who has a lot of snakes on her head, turns people to stone. Also a really good album by Clan of Xymox.
Both of those things are accurate statements.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I don't know what to say when you say things like that.
Well, you can say, that's Medusa.
That's Medusa.
Twisted Shadows.
1989.
That's right. So we have 3-year gap. And this is really where I see they start to, I wouldn't say necessarily embrace the somewhat poppy elements that they had in their previous albums. I'm not saying that, but I'm largely hinting that that's what happened.
Well, I mean, the whole album does sound like it has a much bigger budget.
It sounds like it has a
big production.
Yeah, way different. And I do think that they kind of tightened up and focused a little bit more on the hooks on this album than they did on the previous ones. It almost feels like they kind of figured out how to write and slim down some of the other things that were maybe, you know, a lot less of the longer intros or a lot just getting into the song faster.
They distilled it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that may not be to everybody's preference. I'll say maybe some people might find it a little bit more sterilized, or, you know, they might not like the elements that are just focusing on the hooks or the melodies. I think it works really well. I mean, I thought it was really good. It's a little bit different, I'll say, but I still think it's really good from the beginning. Evelyn, you'll notice the shift right away.
Oh, yeah.
Way bigger budget, just bigger drums, and kind of reminds me of like Susie and the Banshees type of energy. Like just I don't know what it is about the way the rhythm and the guitar and stuff interact. It really reminds me of Susie and the Banshees.
I can see that.
Yeah. The guitar, we have less of a harsh guitar sound. We still have the same kind of, unique Ronnie guitar on here, but it feels like it's been processed through the songwriting filter.
Yeah, they've pulled it back from the front a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it works. I think this album's great. You have the course song a lot of people might know is Obsession. Has a good build up. The intro kind of reminds me of like a horror movie soundtrack sort of thing.
Yeah. I listened to that song 83 times in a row.
You're obsessed.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
You had an obsession.
I did. At first I thought the introduction felt a little long, but then when those vocals kicked in, I was hooked.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
What do you think of the music video for it?
It's a music video.
Yeah, from the time. Music video from the 80s. Yeah.
I think that music videos have evolved a lot over time, and so when you see older stuff, sometimes it's hard to judge, what's impressive and what's
barely, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
No,
I know.
Yeah. Just that's Yeah.
Okay.
Money for Nothing was an amazing music video.
Oh, jeez.
And
trying to think of like a really bad. I always think actually whenever I think of like really bad, or I wouldn't say bad, but like there's very flawed music videos for goth bands. I always think of Corpus Delicti. They have I think it's the song Twilight, and the drummer just is like, it doesn't even look like the drummer's trying to stay in time with it. It's just like that's the one I always think of when I think of like it's a pretty rough one that's kind of older.
Yeah,
but that's later than this. But
yeah,
it's one that comes to mind.
Yeah, same with Money for Nothing, Dancing in the Street.
Oh yeah,
so there's some good ones out there. So the reason I bring up Money for Nothing is because that was the first music video to integrate live action with computer animation, right? And so that's kind of like mind blowing to look back on. But as a music video, it wasn't incredible either.
No, actually, you have a Peter Gabriel one, where it's like the stop motion and everything.
Yeah,
that's a crazy one too. Done by the guys who did Wallace and Gromit.
Oh yeah,
that's who did the animation. Point is, 80s music videos are crazy, and Clan of Xymox had music videos that reflected the time. We're gonna talk about another music video in just a second for a different single, but yeah, on the guitars, when we're talking about clean guitars, I do notice that we have some pretty heavy influence from. It seems like The Cure were a band that was. Let's be honest. It seems like they heard it and were like, kind of give me that sort of production.
Well, yeah, and by that time, The Cure was already a big deal,
especially in terms of goth music, or especially their audience. Clan of Xymox would have overlapping audience, and Craving is really where you start to hear it. Has a really of the time 80s sound, great bass and guitar, but the clean guitar sounds a lot like The Cure.
And that's not a complaint. It's just an observation.
Yeah. It's really shimmery, that sort of thing where they strum a chord and it kind of lingers, but it's really good. And then as far as Blind Hearts, I know you have some strong opinions on that.
I do. Well, let's talk about Craving for a minute, because you know what I noticed about Craving?
What is it?
Fake horn.
Oh, fake horn. It's not as bad as it was, though.
It's not, no.
No, it's not as bad as it was, but yeah, there is fake horn.
It's not at all as bad. In fact, I wrote it in just because it's kind of become like a thing that I'll bring up now if I
just
know
all the fake horn.
There's a fake horn there.
Fake horn. Just
like the fact that I'm Facebook friends with Lori Petty.
You're Facebook friends with Lori Petty. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So anyway, yeah, there's fake horn in that, but it actually isn't that bad. But yeah, Blind Hearts, there's some good riffs in there, and I really like the bass work. But
I wrote like Peter Murphy-ish bass.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that like fretless bass that he had on his albums.
Yeah. There's just something about it though that just feels manufactured. I don't know.
I wrote it felt pretty cheesy. I'll put it that way. It felt like it was, hey, we need a love duet sort of thing.
Okay.
And here it is.
Yeah.
Which was really weird. But you want to talk about a ballad or sort of love song sort of thing? The River.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that song. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Very unique keyboard synth sound to it.
Yep.
And almost like a toy piano sort of sound. Again, lyrics not the strong suit of this song, but
who cares? It's so good.
it was. It definitely feels like there's a more confidence in his voice at this point.
Yeah.
For this song specifically, and I also want to point out that it's a very short song.
It is.
But it's great. I really like it. It's just so good.
I got a million things to say about the next one.
Yeah. Oh, a million. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a million things to say about a million things.
But I'll keep it short because I know we don't have time for that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Pretty good song, but I think that it doesn't feel like theme music. It kind of feels like background music for a scene in a movie or something.
I didn't like it that much. I'll be honest. I mean,
there's just so many things going on in the song, you know?
I put super synthy.
Oh.
That's the way I put it.
Yeah.
So this is the way I would describe it. So,
but I mean, it would absolutely work as something to have as in the background of like a party in a movie scene.
Yeah.
Where you have a bunch of people just kind of hanging out and being low energy goths in a living room, maybe a black beanbag chair.
People doing a lot of things. A million things in the room.
A million ways of not doing anything. A million things. I don't know. You can cut
anyway.
that out. Yeah.
Tonight, again, super ballady. Tonight We'll Fly. I thought that was weird.
I really, really like Tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that one.
I don't know. Just like the vocals. I really liked a lot of layering of the sound. There's real strings in there. It's like from a quartet.
Yeah.
I really, really liked it.
Really?
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was surprised that you saying that. I mean, I still thought it was really good, but they can't beat Imagination.
Okay. Well, you know, I couldn't dream.
You can't imagine that anybody else
would
like that song less.
Right.
But yeah, Imagination, this might be one of the other ones that people are really familiar with.
Who sings that? Heart? Cyndi Lauper?
No, it's Anka.
Oh, yeah.
From Clan of Xymox.
Yeah. Amazing song.
It is. I think it's a great song. This is really where you do see or you hear, like, okay, they're trying to make an accessible album.
Yeah.
To like a mainstream audience of the time. The music video is very much like the big budget, sort of crazy videos of the time with crazy visuals and like lots of different shadows and everything. It's still a really good song, and the vocals have a lot of energy and emotion to them, and it really drives it. I wouldn't say anything about this song that is bad necessarily. You have it's called the melodica thing, whatever it plays, but it all works. It just works. It shouldn't. In some ways, it feels like it shouldn't because it feels like, oh, it sounds so dated, but it just works.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised it didn't get more attention at the time by mainstream listeners.
Yeah. I'm surprised too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Clan of Xymox still has success, but today it seems like it might not be as remembered as the other songs by other artists, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, a great song.
It deserves radio play on stations that play this kind of music.
Yeah. Oh, I could see it. I could totally see this in that sort of thing where you just hear it's like, we got a hit from 1989. It's going to be Clan of Xymox. And call in, be number 55. What do you think of In the City?
I thought they had some pretty interesting instrument choices for the synth.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
You think so?
I do. I was like, this is, I don't know, this is kind of odd. You know, I just, it's not that I didn't like it. It was just kind of strange, the different synth sounds that they used.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't feel strongly about it one way or another, I guess.
So I say you feel strongly about it. That's the way you word it?
Yeah, I feel strongly about not feeling strongly about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense whenever you explain it that way.
Yeah.
Clementina, is that right? That's the name of that song?
Amazing intro. Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure I said that right. Yeah, I thought it's a great instrumental. Like all the instrumentation here is great. By the way, just the strings at the end. I like I don't know if it's synth strings. Probably just synth strings.
Might be real strings because they did have real strings for some of it.
It was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really good. I really liked it. Like this whole album has a lot of good things going on with it. And I get it. The band was kind of driven more towards a produced element like most bands do. I mean, you know, if you stay together for long enough, some bands, they kind of lose the roughness if they're trying to get a certain goal attained. And it definitely seems like Clan of Xymox was shooting for a mainstream audience with this. I think it was one of the few examples where a band does it and they kind of keep the same elements that everybody liked about them.
Yeah.
And that can't be said for a lot of bands. I do think goth musicians are a little bit more successful in this than, say, a lot of other genres, like, say, punk or, I don't know, I guess rock, where the more they go towards the produce, it loses what you like about the band.
Yeah. Well, and two, when bands that are like punk bands, for example, right? I mean, you when you start to make a lot of money, you also tend to lose some of that fire.
Yeah.
The
aggression and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have I think this is another example like you have with, I mean, Sisters of Mercy is a kind of weird example, but like even like Bauhaus, where the more they went on, they got their sound changed, and maybe some of the elements of In the Flat Field were lost, like the roughness of that, by the time you get to even like Mask or Burning from the Inside.
Yeah.
But it's still like really good music, and what you like about the band, you didn't necessarily lose. It's just maybe substitute for something else, or certain elements are refined in a different way. And I think this is really what happened with Twist of Shadows. And we're going to be seeing a little bit more of a change. Maybe some of those elements change a little bit more on the next album. But yeah, Twist of Shadows is really good.
Yeah.
And then you can't get this on Spotify, right?
No, this is, for whatever reason, this is not available on Spotify. It's probably due to like intellectual property problems or something.
I mean, and also it wasn't on Apple Music either.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on there. And like I said, if you listen to this years later, because some people point out things like,
yeah, it is, you dingus.
Yeah, the Damned, with the Damned. I think when we did the episode, keep in mind, this is like 3 years ago. It was like, oh yeah, you can listen to this on Spotify whenever. And people are like, it's not on Spotify, it's ridiculous. I'm like, you realize when this was released, right?
Yeah.
So this is 2019. It is July. I want to make that clear. But at the time, you can't find this album quite as easily as, say, because people are like, nowadays they're so impatient. I mean, it's just like they're insanely impatient. So they're like,
instant gratification.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can't find it. It's not anywhere. Like, or, that's not an album. It's not on the thing. It's like, okay, well, you might have to go out and, I don't know, buy the album.
Yeah.
Or search for it a little bit, but it's at the moment it's just not on the click Spotify right there album. Oh, I can put it on, don't have to listen to it sort of thing. Just thought I would point that out.
Maybe you could go to a record store like you would have to do in 1989.
I wonder if
and then special order from them where they would actually buy it off of eBay for you because that's the only way you're going to find it.
I don't know if is there a CD version of this? There's probably easier ways to do it than that, but that'd be the best way to do it.
Yeah. Support your local record company.
I know, right? Anyway, that's Twist of Shadows.
Imagine the year is 1991.
And you have risen from the ashes like a bird that catches on fire, and then
dies, and then turns into ash.
And then turns into a new bird.
And you are now that new bird.
You are a phoenix.
With all the memories of the previous phoenix.
And now you have an album by Clan of Xymox named after you. Called, the album's called Phoenix.
You think you're special because you have an album named after you by Clan of Xymox?
Well, if you're a phoenix, then now you can feel special.
Yeah. But only then.
Anyway, this album's called Phoenix. Released in 1991. Oh, and then I didn't mention this in the last part. So we had a shift back to the band name Xymox. So this is something that is really weird about this band. And I don't know what the deal is with this, but the band switched names. It seems random to me. They were called Clan of Xymox. Apparently they started as Xymox, then became Clan of Xymox for the first album, Clan of Xymox and Medusa. And then for Twist of Shadows and Phoenix, they're known as just Xymox, Xymox. I was wondering, like, what is the deal with that change? And I couldn't find anything necessarily concrete. I did find an interview with Ronnie. He was asked, why did you change the name of the band from Clan of Xymox to Xymox, then back to Clan of Xymox? And he said, to confuse you and the rack jobbers in the record store. Okay, every time we changed the name, it was a sign that there was a certain change for the band and its direction. And I mean, if we listen to the part that we just talked about, that's pretty true. I mean, there was a definite shift towards a more poppy element and a sound shift. I just find that so weird.
Yeah.
That was just like a shift. I mean, it'd be like if I was like, oh, I'm Dr. Sanders, then I'm just Sanders. And then like, oh, now I'm Dr. Sanders again.
Well, you know what it was is that when they were putting ads in the newspaper, they had a paper letter.
Oh, that makes sense. People don't know at the time.
Yeah.
They were like, that's too much ink to print the name.
Exactly.
So.
And if we do it with fewer letters, we get larger print for the same price.
Well, and what's funnier is that this...
None of that's true, by the way.
Yeah, of course. But actually, what's even weirder is I can think of another example of this with a really famous goth band is there was Fields of the Nephilim.
Yeah.
And then...
Nephilim.
There's Nephilim.
Yeah.
And then went back to Fields of the Nephilim.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is just an isolated thing with goth bands, but I will say that for Nephilim, it made a little bit more sense because of the shift in sound and tone and
oh man,
a lot of the stuff that was going on in the band.
What if, and this is a big what if, because it's the past and things don't work the same way anymore, but if you're a goth band and you start your band with a name that starts with A, right? And then you change it to one with B and then C, and then you could be
every single letter.
Exactly. And then when people are flipping through all the different records or whatever available, no matter which section they're looking through, one of your albums is going to be in that section.
Oh gosh. And it would always be, you should always do
a band called Clan of Xymox.
Yeah. Oh man.
Band semicolon Clan of Xymox. And then Clan of Xymox. And then dang, that band Clan of Xymox is really good.
Damned band Clan of Xymox.
Yeah.
That's it right there. It'd be in every single. Anyway, I thought I'd point out the ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. Like, it just made it hard. Unfortunately, that wouldn't have been a big deal back then. Like when they were still sorting records that way. Because you could go in and be like, hey, do you have any Clan of Xymox? Or they're like, oh yeah, we got the new stuff. It's under Xymox. It's under X. Or they could just say, or most people when that happens, they just sort it all under Clan of Xymox anyway in a record store. But it's just nowadays it's harder because with the internet the way it is, like the way we sort music, it comes up under Xymox. Yeah. And so you have like a lot of times you'll have these albums under Clan of Xymox, and you have to search Xymox itself on some places like Discogs and stuff to find those releases, and then go back to Clan of Xymox. So there are certain elements that are just really annoying in some way, but
they didn't think 30 years ahead into the future about how problematic their name changes were going to be for us.
Yeah, when they thought that tape trading, when they thought that was like the biggest issue, it's just ridiculous that they didn't realize that how many decades later, when we're all basically just looking up every single thing on the internet instantaneously.
How inconsiderate that they weren't taking into account the digital age in 1991.
Oh, that's funny. You can actually find Twisted Shadows under Xymox on Spotify.
What? Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'll cut that out then.
No. Leave it in there.
Leave it in there?
Leave it in there.
So
you're like, actually, we were wrong. You can find it under Xymox.
Yeah.
Because of all the everything we just talked about.
Wow.
We thought it wasn't on Spotify.
Yeah, while we were talking about this, I was like, I wonder if there is actually under Xymox.
There you go.
Oh, but wait. Oh, but Phoenix isn't, though. Anyway, okay. Phoenix. God, it's so ridiculous.
Good luck. That's what we're trying to say.
It gets more complicated.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to Phoenix. I thought I would address all that kind of stuff right now. The music on Phoenix, it seems like, okay, they had some pretty good success with the last release, and Twisted Shadows did really well with us kind of pertaining and kind of adopting the mainstream sort of sense. Let's do it all the way.
Yeah.
And
do it all the way they did.
Yes, they did. And this album is very reflective of the time. Not to everyone's taste. I'll say probably more people will notice the time period on this album than they will with Twist of Shadows, because this album really feels like a late 80s, early 90s album. And the way... The rhythm, the percussion, it has that almost like drum and bass I wouldn't say hip hop, but dance beat. Like you just know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
Like you just know it. Especially, you know, since they were so influenced by synths and the electronic music, it's like they just adopted it fully. And like Phoenix of My Heart, I put literally rewinds me to the 90s. Sort of like actually reminds me of Susie and the Banshees, Kiss Them For Me.
Yeah.
You know, just that bass drum, the bass and rhythm, like sort of for it. It was really reminds me of that, but it's so dated. And even the video and stuff is like for this release, Phoenix of My Heart is just so 90s. It's like you're drinking from a jazz cup, wearing your hypercolor on your rollerblades.
Yeah. REM wrote it, Forest for the Trees arranged it, Xymox performed it.
Yeah.
And then Enigma did some of the background sounds.
It's all of that. It actually kind of reminds me them adopting that sort of thing. It actually really reminds me of how when you listen to Pretty Hate Machine, there's the one song Down In It that has that sort of sound of like the late 80s, early 90s in it.
Yeah.
You know, just the rhythm and everything and just all the instruments. And the rest of the album doesn't really feel that way, but that one song on Pretty Hate Machine I feel like is really dated. It's not a bad song. I'm just saying like you can pinpoint it.
Yeah.
This album has a lot of it. You can just pinpoint exactly where it's from.
Yeah. And on Phoenix of the Heart too, like just all of a sudden there's that random like wild thing.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Like lifted wild thing, you know, for the last part of the song. It's like what I don't understand.
I don't know what they're doing. That's a popular song to sample though.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's funny because we started with a day and then this is at the end of the day. It honestly really reminded me of like a sitcom or movie soundtrack music.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely movie worthy. And I should mention too, the last song seems pretty cheerful. This song seems pretty cheerful. It's kind of like, oh, is this going to be the whole album? Is all like happy, upbeat?
I know.
Up-tempo,
I thought that too.
like,
but then when you get to Short Down Under, it immediately just sounds like, okay, you're like, this is Clan of Xymox again.
Yep.
Or sorry, Xymox.
Yeah. No, this is the style and lyrics. Kind of the return to the past style. Love the long intro on that one, and it again reminds me of Enigma. There's a couple on here that I'm just like, oh wow, this
Enigma.
Yeah, just because of the like the use of the choral, you know, like the kind of cathedral choir feel of some of the stuff and the chanting and some of the different rhythms and instrumentation they use. I don't know, just like there's some Enigma stuff in there.
I can hear it definitely. Yeah. It does try to throw you off a little bit, and there are still some other elements, but it's good that they do have their classic sound represented here. Yeah. Mark the Days, great instrumental, great guitar.
Oh yeah. The two different guitar sounds they use are pretty different and they work really, really well together. They complement each other even though they're kind of different sounds. Mm-hmm. They juxtapose well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like all of the ambient layering they use in that song.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of long held notes and it's dreamy.
Yeah.
I want to mention that. Anyway.
They actually do that pretty well on this album too, like just adding in the background stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it works for it, but like I said, I don't know if some people will be turned off by the produced nature of this.
Sure.
But I think for you and me, we're pretty much open to most stuff anyway. And I thought they actually did that really well. There was some of that on Twist of Shadows. I just feel like this album's a lot more produced.
Really?
I don't know. I mean,
I think it might be more produced, but I think it feels
in a different way.
Yeah, I think maybe this feels more. I don't know. I hate to say it, but like maybe more genuine. I don't know. Like
no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
genuine's not really the right word though.
It's an enigma.
It is. Maybe if I think of it, I'll mention it again. I think it feels produced in a different way. Okay. I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, but believe me, sometimes.
I believe you more than sometimes, Donnie.
Really?
Yeah, it's practically all the time.
I don't know if I would do that. Well, It's easier to just tell everybody what you're thinking and tell them anyway instead of lying to them because then it gets hard to even... I can't even really remember. I'm just kind of doing a million things a lot of times, so it's kind of got to be more direct.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I mean, I think it's better than living in a wonderland, you know.
It's true. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that... But believe me, sometimes. It's a little long. I'll say it's still a good song. The strings and everything are really good. You know, we have Anka's vocals on here. I don't know if the ballads really got me on this one as much. I don't know. I don't know if the ballads on here really got me as much as it did with the previous albums.
I like this one, but I did struggle to describe it. I literally just put in my notes, how would you describe this song, Donnie?
Oh yeah.
The style is very particular, but I can't put my finger on it. It sounds like this is a particular,
I don't know,
type of style used by,
I don't know. It just kind of
soul.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Soul singers, but like
I put like hip hop R&B sort of thing. That's
maybe a little bit blues or something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like it's weird. This album has a lot of those elements of it. I just think a lot of it comes from like electronic dance music at the time. A lot of the stuff that the elements that they're putting in with this, but it's
EDM, jazz, blues, whatever. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's Xymox. Wonderland. You don't need to wonder because it was definitely made in the 90s.
Yeah. This is the other heavily Enigma related
this
one.
Is like ridiculous.
Yeah. Faster tempo, lots of choral vocals, like the beat, the sitar synth, right? Like all of the vocal harmonies and everything, the put in funk guitar in there.
It was just weird. Everything in here just screams the 90s for me.
I really, really like it.
It's good.
I don't know that I like it as a Xymox song.
But you like the song?
I think I just like it in general. Yeah.
It's weird.
I don't think it's representative of their work that we've heard so far, but I think that it's a good song.
It is. I mean, I think it's good. It's weird. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
We have Written in the Stars, which I thought was pretty good. Great synth, like the layering. Really? No, you didn't.
So I just thought that the synth parts were like kind of weak, maybe like a bit tinny compared to the guitar. Well, I like the guitar in it. I like the guitar in it a lot, but I thought the synth kind of didn't live up to the guitar in that one.
Well, I mean, you're right, but they do layer a lot of it to try and make up for the I think the parts. So I think it makes a pretty okay song. The thing about the guitar in this album is I felt like the guitar wasn't as pronounced in a lot of ways as a lot of the other elements in the music. It's still good. Like this is a great example where there is a more pronounced guitar.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. I felt like something was lost from, if you just listen especially the first two albums to here with the guitar, I feel like the guitar isn't quite the forefront of this album as much.
Gotcha.
And that's mostly just because of the songwriting. I mean, let's be honest. It's just the arrangements.
Sure.
You don't need it. And plus, a lot of the songs are heavily reliant on the vocals more so.
Yeah. Also in Written in the Stars, they do a lot of changes like for the low to mid background sounds that they use. There's like a lot of different things that they have going on in the background.
Yeah.
Or back of the mix. Yeah. Stuff. Just kind of like interesting noises and sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
That are also again reminiscent of the kind of music that you would hear out of Enigma.
Yeah, it's more
Enigma. Oh, and I also forgot to mention Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Fake horn.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's fake horn.
Just want to note the fake. You should keep a tally of fake horn down there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good. What do you think about Dancing Barefoot? The Patti Smith song. It's pretty good, right? And then they did cover it. Oh, that's right.
I really, really liked this version of Dancing Barefoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much?
Immensely. All of a sudden, I'm in space for this song. It's just like I was transported immediately. Some of it actually reminds me of. Did you ever play Startopia? It's like a space station game where you're like trying to build.
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah, Remind you of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can get it on Good Old Games.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll buy it for you.
All right.
Yeah, I think you should play it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's really like Xymox style necessarily.
I thought this is a perfect example of like when we're talking about the 90s-ish style, it just feels really dramatic on this album.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you ask the band actually they'd be like, oh, that's just the Xymox throughout the years or something like that. But like a lot of the elements from the previous albums, when we're talking about, oh, it just sounds so different, it's for these specific songs. It really feels like almost it was like written by somebody else and it just has the band members playing it with their instruments.
Yeah. In this case, it was written by somebody else. But
Well,
I'm sure you meant like arranged, like the new arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. I mean, it definitely doesn't feel, if you put this song or a couple of the other songs in the previous two albums, it'd
be weird.
Yeah. Like a sore thumb, they'd stick out.
Yeah.
But I really like this cover.
And also, this actually really reminds me. There was I think it was the Thompson Twins. They did a song for Cool World.
Yeah.
And it's called Play With Me.
Yeah.
This song, like when I hear it, it's like instantly, I'm like, it reminds me of that song. Like with the bass and the drums and everything, it's just.
I can hear it.
Like
yeah.
Instantly when I hear it, I'm just like, that sounds like this like almost exact song from at least obviously the notes, but like the instrumentation and everything, just the feeling of it.
Yep.
Really reminds me of that song. By the way, good song. Terrible movie, but good song.
Crossing the Water.
Another instrumental.
Yeah.
So it actually has an instrumental on this.
Yep.
Which I think was good. Again, it's like kind of a callback to the previous albums, trying to like, have a focus on just the music, less on the hooks and everything.
Yeah. Sufficiently dark and gloomy.
Yes. Definitely.
Clear sound. Like when I say dark and gloomy, I don't mean like muddled, but clear sound. Yeah. Choir, again, like choral stuff, like cathedral style vocals. Otherwise instrumental. Yeah. Good. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. It works though. It works. I'm glad they kept it in there. And it was Smile Like Heaven. I thought it was a little repetitive, I'm going to be honest. I mean, it's a great song, great vocals, everything, but I did feel like it was a little bit repetitive.
Okay.
But I still thought it was a good addition to the album. Do you disagree?
I mean, I disagree just because it didn't feel repetitive to me. But I think maybe I don't have to justify anything to you.
Yeah, you sure about that?
I just don't have to rationalize
Are you sure?
my opinion.
You don't need to be on the podcast anymore. See how much you have to justify it to me.
No, I really liked the layering. I liked the ambient harmony. I liked the interesting blips and blorps they used for rhythm, and the synth for the bass. I thought was done really well. Like, I don't know. I liked all the elements of it. I guess I was focusing more on that, and maybe that's why I didn't think it felt repetitive. But it didn't feel repetitive to me.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, really?
That's why I said it.
That's what you're going with.
We thrown down.
That's what you're going with.
If you're gonna drop the mic, make it your mic.
Okay. Yeah, I thought overall this was a pretty solid album. I mean, there wasn't a bad one. There wasn't a bad release in any of these albums, really. I mean, it just depends on what you like from it. It's kind of like Peter Murphy. I mean, I do think Peter Murphy is probably better in just a lot of ways, but it's also because it's Peter Murphy and he got like some of the best songwriters ever to work with him.
Yeah.
But as far as like a band sense, I think it was incredibly consistent in terms of quality, not necessarily in terms of the overall sound, obviously. They did evolve, and they'll change their band name as well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they still, even on Phoenix, that they had elements that are still reminiscent of the earlier stuff from, the 1985 and Medusa and stuff. I do think that they refined it, and we do see a lot of that. And there were some poppy elements creeping in there, but I think that it was all really well done. There are some things I want to talk about as far as, I mean, they change actually pretty dramatically on the next album. That's a whole different thing. I mean, we're going to get in part 2, which is pretty cool. I like a lot of the later stuff, like I said in the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really different. It's just really different.
Yeah. Well, and when you're listening to the first 2 albums on this podcast, and then you listen to the third one, you'll be like, wow, okay, this is pretty different. And you listen to the fourth one, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then when you listen to number 5 in part 2, after we talk about it, I mean, you can listen to it before.
You can listen to it before.
We won't
screw it down.
Yeah, we won't judge you for that.
But those albums have their own sound,
right? That
is very different. Probably even more dramatically so than these albums, the evolution. But there's a lot of things some controversies with Clan of Xymox. There's some feuds, and I kind of was waiting until we got to here because this is about when it starts. So Ronnie Moorings, he has always said that, or he has claimed that he was the one that wrote all the music. He's like, I wrote all the music, whatever, for all our previous albums, right?
Right.
And he has gotten some opposition from that. I mean, songwriting credits on the albums are listed as, including Anka and Peter. But Ronnie said, "Oh, that was just me letting them have credit or whatever," and both members have obviously a differing account of that, saying that no, I did. Like Peter's like, I did contribute. You can even hear some of the demos I made for these that sound remarkably similar to these songs. And Anka says, oh, it was always a collaborative process between us. We were each contributing in our own way. And in some ways, especially with the shift we see after they leave, because this is the last album where it has all three of them together in this way. And when we see that shift, when they leave, we hear a pretty dramatic shift in the band's sound. And in some ways, it leads me to believe that, like, okay, it was probably some elements were being driven by those two people.
Right.
But I thought I would mention it here just because it is, it's controversial to say that you have these people touring with you for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, no,
they didn't help at all.
I wrote all the songs. Yeah, and there's even some other people who contributed. Like, remember how I was telling you in the beginning that it's mainly the three people, Peter, Anka, and Ronnie, and then you have a whole bunch of other people.
Right, guest artist people.
Yeah, there's even other accounts of people who are saying it's always been a weird sort of thing where, like, it's not really clear who contributes what to this band in terms of, like, did they fully write that song or did he write that song or whatever. But like I said, Ronnie still states, I think to this day, that, like, oh, it's all me. And there's even another interview. I have an excerpt here. This is from the same interview where he talks about, like, the band names changing. So this is a pretty old interview at this point, but when he's asked about the times where the band members change, the live lineup or band member changes, and he's saying, oh, sometimes it's hard to get people who are who play live with you to come and then tour with me, blah blah. They have their own lives. But he talks about, like, oh, this is why gradual changes sometimes take place. This does not affect the music nor the music writing in any way because I write and record all the songs on my own. And it's kind of vague as if he's referring to the older recordings or if he's referring to what was the modern time of the band. Yeah. But still, it's kind of, I think the implication probably by him was that, oh, I've done it all, sort of thing. But there's been a lot of controversy over that over the years. And like I said, we're going to see a dramatic shift in the next album. And it's going to be a few years also. I mean, that's a big contributor probably to that too. But the last time they collaborated and then the next album, when they're not collaborating anymore, you have a dramatic shift in sound. It kind of leads you to believe that maybe some of those elements were being driven by those other people. But anyway, thought we'd just point that out.
Seems logical to me.
Yeah, but the band started fighting. I think it started with, like, Twisted Shadows. They started arguing a little bit and then kind of really came to a head about the time that Phoenix came out, and then they all parted ways. So yeah, but we're going to see still Ronnie continuing the band name and everything on the next episode of GothCast and all that stuff.
I don't know what to say when you say things like that, Donnie.
Jeez.
I'm excited to do the next set. So
nice.
Yeah, why don't we figure out
we'll do it. We'll do it.
How we release these into the world and
do it.
Continue to
sit
release
here,
things.
Talk about it.
We'll just talk, and even when we don't have anything real to say,
that's most of the time.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking like it's a live streaming chat.
Exactly.
thing.
All you people out there listening right now, live on the thing.
Pew pew pew, Granada.
Anyway, of course, if you like GothCast, you can leave a review for us on iTunes. GothCast is brought to you in part by the Belfry Podcast Network. Great network. Bring you lots of different types of goth podcasts. Actually, it's not even specifically just related to goth music. A lot of them are related to the spookier side of life. That's the way I like to say it. But go check. Oh, if you want an archive of all the episodes, say you just like put it on YouTube, you can actually go to YouTube and type in the GothCast podcast archive, or I think it's just GothCast podcast. You'll find the channel has all the episodes up there, or just search a specific band. Usually search GothCast. I don't know, like Psycho Series, or then you'll find it that way too. It's just an archive of all the episodes if you prefer it that way, and coming soon to other platforms as well. But thanks for listening, and of course, make sure to
stay spooky.
It's my line.
Stay
spooky. Stay spooky.
Stay.
On the count of 3. 1,
Wait,
2,
on 3
stay
or after
spooky.
3?
Oh,
On
1, 2,
3?
3, go.
1, 2, 3, go. Stay spooky.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Wait, am I supposed to? 1, 2, 3.
I thought we were
go.
alternating the count.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
1,
2.
2,
No,
3.
see, I say 2 and you say 3, and then I say go.
Oh, okay.
And then we both say
all right. 1,
2,
What?
3.
3.
Yeah, it's
Go.
So you okay?
Spooky. Stay spooky.
Yeah,
There we go. Nailed it.
good. Stay.
Love
it. Stay that
Yeah,
way.
we got it. Make sure to stay there.
Stay spooky.
Yeah.